Welcome to the Moonflower Path podcast. This space is for the highly sensitive, the creatives, the earth-loving, the caregivers, the weirdos, the feelers, the change makers, and dreamers of the world. Here, we are all about guiding you to trust your body intuition so you can find home and shift culture. Through the exploration of somatic practice, self-care, and seasonal ritual, my hope is that you will be inspired to be in harmony with yourself and in a dance with the earth. I'm your host, Carolyn, and I'm so honored and grateful to be here with you today. All right, today we're getting real. This is a completely unscripted episode. I've just plopped myself on the floor, I've put my mic on and hit record because I am feeling inspired and fired up to share. This week in the community, in the Moonflower Path community space, like the membership itself, but also just in the community as a whole, we are moving through the theme of nurturing your throat chakra, the theme of speaking up, of sharing your needs and your desires, as well as the practice of compassionately listening to others. This is inspired by the new moon that just moved this past week to usher in a new astrological season, and we're moving through Gemini season. The sun finds himself in the sign of Gemini. And I mean, whether or not you believe in all of that stuff in astrology as a whole, it's not really the point. The point is that astrology is just another lens within which we can learn more about ourselves. And Gemini is an energy that is very sociable, very communicative, amongst other things, but I'm just focusing on that aspect. And this theme was chosen also as an accompaniment to the exploration of creativity that we've been moving through in the community, and I talked a little bit more about I don't remember what number it was, but I'll leave it in the show notes, but the title of the episode was When You're Feeling Creatively Empty. So this is less of a practical episode, and really I wanted this to just be more like a pep talk, maybe for myself as much as for you. And my hope is that this is helpful, because one of the things that I know that I've been shown time and time again on this path of claiming who I am, of taking up space, of loving the way that I naturally am, which is being somebody who is highly sensitive, which means being somebody who is highly emotional, which means being somebody who actually requires a lot of slowness, a lot of space in my life to care for myself, to listen to my intuition. I leave a lot of space and emphasis, and I prioritize all of that because it keeps me whole, because it keeps me from falling apart, because it helps me not get sucked into the darkness that is mental illness, that is all of the things that come along with not loving and not trusting and not honoring oneself. And one of the things that I know is helpful on this path of being a moonflower is to have consistent reminders of this truth that you are allowed to be who you are. Like we do have a lot of reminders of like, just be you, like that's all you can ever be. And like, that's always really the lesson in like any hero's journey. But it's conflicting messages, right? Because in the reality of the way that the world is constructed and in the way that we might navigate a lot of spaces is that that's actually not the truth. That every space is actually made for the quote majority, which is not even the majority, but like let's be real. Let's just like say it like it is. We live in a world that is built on the foundation of patriarchy. We live in a world that is built on the foundation of white supremacy. We are built in a world that is based off of capitalism, and those are made for one specific type of person and leave very little room for anybody else. And as much as I absolutely recognize the privilege that I hold in being a white person, a able-bodied person, a cisgendered person, and I recognize my privilege and all of that, I also hold labels and parts of myself that don't fit into typical spaces. And one of those is being highly sensitive. And so we consistently are reminded that it's actually not okay to be that type of person. And I want to be the voice in the room that is speaking just as loudly as the shitty voices that are telling you that you actually can't be or are not welcomed to be anything other than what others want you to be. I want to be a voice that is just as loud, if not louder, in the room saying that, yes, you are worthy of being who you are. Yes, prioritizing your self-care is okay. And that in turn, what will happen is that you're not going to become more selfish. You will become more loving. You will become more able to show up as the authentic, loving, caring, beautiful, amazing, magical person that you are. And I want to be the reminder of that. And why does this fall in line with our theme? Well, if we talk about use your throat chakra, and if you're unfamiliar with the chakra system, very brief. Very brief. The chakra system is a old East Indian philosophy that believes that we have 7 energetic centers in our bodies, starting from the base of our tailbone all the way up to the top crown of our head and around our body. And each energetic center has a role, a purpose for a specific part of who we are. Your throat chakra is the seat of your voice, of your truth, of your ability to communicate truthfully, lovingly, compassionately, as well as listen deeply, compassionate, lovingly. If you'd like to learn more about the chakras, I have a whole journey through the chakras YouTube video series on the channel. Link is in the show notes. You could practice along with me and learn more about those. But why does today's episode and what I'm getting fired up about, why does it tie into your throat chakra? Well, a big part of tuning into your voice is to speak up and to share your desires, to share your needs, to instill your boundaries. And the reality is that is not always met with care, with love, with understanding, with level-headed responses from the rest of the world, whether that be from very external or very immediate people in your lives. It's not always met with understanding. I have a lot of experience in this, and I continue forever. I'm continually learning this reality and have to fall back on the self-care practices and tools and resources that I know can help remind me of the fact that I'm allowed to take up space, that I'm allowed to speak up, that I'm allowed to have boundaries and enforce and instill them. Like one very core example of a vulnerable practice of sharing let's say, sharing your goals or your dreams or your desires with the world. I just recently created a whole new business. The Moonflower Path was a huge shift from moving away from Yoga with Carolyn into the Moonflower Path. And as I was sharing and posting the podcast episodes and writing the newsletters and sending them out, I was met with, yes, beautiful responses from some, but I was also met with a lot of unfollows, unsubscribers, unfollowers of, oh, this is not for me. And that could have been read as a sign of, oh crap, this is not what I meant to be doing. And it took for me to fall back on what I know is true, to fall back on what supports I know that I can remind myself that, yes, this is what I want. Yes, this is what I need. Yes, this is the right decision for me. This is the right decision for the folks who need this work. And it's not easy to do that. And so I want to remind you of the fact that the way that you are is perfect. Yes, you might have your things that you might be shameful of, or you might have your darknesses inside of you, but you also have so much light. And if you are somebody who has to take a nap in the afternoon, if you are somebody who has to say no to whatever, to gatherings with other people more often than saying yes, if you are somebody that you know that you move slower than the rest of the world, and so you take longer to do things and you get shitty responses for that, that's not yours to hold. That is not yours. That is a sentence that has consistently helped me, is this is not mine to hold. Your reaction to my honoring my intuition, to my enforcing my boundaries, to my sharing what I deeply know is true for me, your reaction to that is not mine to hold. So let this be your reminder, dear Moonflower, that the way that you are is valid. The sensitivity, your highly caring, emotional self is valid. It is not only valid, but it is worthy of being celebrated, and it is needed. And I will continually commit to being your reminder of that, to be the louder voice in the room of people who are trying to remind you to scurry back into conformity, to scurry back into being what other people want you to be. That is false. I am here to remind you that the way that you innately are, the passions that light you up, no matter how wild or strange or out there they might be, the way that you want to live your life, the way that you love to move your body within practices that are telling you that you need to move your body in a certain way, the way that you want to move your body, the way that you know you want to take up space, the love that you want to share with the folks who value that love and receive that love, all of that is allowed to take up space. Whatever that looks like, you don't need to be anybody else. You are needed exactly as you are. So throw this episode on whenever you need that reminder, because I'm right there with you. I know what it feels like to have people not understand. I know what it feels to feel completely unwanted or unneeded in the way that you are. I know what it feels like. So you're not alone. You got this. Come back to your practices and your resources, and if you don't know what they are, keep listening to this podcast, poke around the YouTube channel, come and visit us in the Moonflower Path community space, and breathe. You got this. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for listening to my words, Moonflower. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Moonflower Path podcast. I'm your host, Carolyn, and ways that you can find more support from me and this cozy community are all found in the show notes. Please consider rating, reviewing, and sharing this podcast with a friend. Those are the best ways to show your support for this free and accessible resource. Wishing you a gentle rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting again with you very soon.